Well, let me first of all make the case for social equity. So if you're in a business, right, and especially in and around the cannabis space and in the psychedelic space, we'll see what happens, whether or not there ends up being social equity like programs or not. I don't know. But there is in cannabis, and I think the call for that, especially with the current federal administration that we have, will consistently be that way. So I think it's in your business interest to try to figure out, if you want to grow market share, how can you leverage social equity to do so? But then, like anything else in life, you want to do it credibly. And so, one, you've got to have culturally competent people on your team who have the ability to connect with people, the traumas associated with the experiences of people who come from communities that have been under-resourced for generations. And if that's not you and your team, and if you don't come from those communities or have relatives that come from those communities, it's not you. You've got to have diversity on your team, to be able to work with people in this way, and really to create a policy that works. You might know the business, but you don't know the human. And you got to be able to, you got to acknowledge that, be willing to acknowledge that, and be willing to invest in, getting that right. That's number one. And number two, you got to think about the outcome. There can be a double positive outcome here. You can make money. You can accrue additional market share and value to your stakeholders across your enterprise, but it may look different. The margins may look a little different. It might not look like your non-social equity part of your business. And that's got to be okay, right? It can still be in this industry, when you do it right, the margins are great. So it can still be very lucrative. More is not always better. Better is better. And so you have to have an idea about what is better specific to social equity, and then reverse engineer your playbook to be able to do that. And I promise, and then be able to really talk about it. Another way in which cultural competency really matters, because you can't appropriate this conversation. Yep. People on your marketing team, on your ability to talk about your business, drive traffic, engage community, have to be able to do so in a credible and authentic way. But in America, people love a survivor story. And the value that you bring to our society is this. When you take a human being, and hopefully we all believe that God loves us all the same. None of us, when we leave this earth, have intrinsically more or less value based upon how much money we made when we were here, or who we were born to, and if you believe that, and that's the case, when you take somebody who currently exists in this world like this, right? Like based upon the circumstance to which they were born and the outcomes that they're producing, they kind of live here. This is their experience. This is their output. And all of a sudden, based upon an opportunity that you and your team provide, they begin to see possibility for themselves in their life, where their productivity, engagement, and energy in the world goes like this, and then this, and then this. What you are doing is you are making us all safer. You are growing the marketplace, commercially, as it relates to how they participate in our economy, and their impact with their family, their community, policy, all of the ways that will improve life for all of us in time is exponential and incalculable. And so you want to be a part of that and be able to tell that story and be able to encourage your team outside of the social equity lane. This is what we're doing. This is what we're about. And that is valuable. And it's blue space. because people in our industry, by and large, don't have it right.
Yeah, hard to comment on that because I think you said it about as poignant as you could. But it's true. I would say, like, you run a company, you're in a position of influence. Yes, like really take a hard look at your makeup. Does your business reflect the diversity of this industry? Um, does look at your hiring decisions, look at your supply chain, look at who you work with from a contract standpoint. If you want to speak, if you want to do the right thing, if you want to sort of speak with authority and credibility, then, as Karim said, you need to have that perspective on your team. You need to have people that come from communities that have been impacted. You need to have people that bring some cultural diversity and perspective to some of the decisions that you're making. There's a ton of microaggressions that might happen on a daily basis within companies that you don't even see, and because of the homogeneity of your staff and your workforce. So when you bring in different experiences and perspectives, and cultural, you have like a greater cultural awareness and sensitivity to the actions that you make from a macro level all the way to a micro level. If I think seeking out, if you don't have the diversity within your staff or that diverse perspective, like seeking out organizations, seeking out there's plenty of industry resources nationally, in the US and globally, where you do that outreach so that you can sort of figure out like where your biases are, figure out where you have gaps, and by sort of addressing those, then the idea is over time you can begin to manage in ways that are going to be more inclusive and equitable. And I like how Karim said that you can win in both areas. It's not like these decisions that it's something that's like mutually exclusive. There's a ton of value in seeking out collaborative partnerships that have the ability to not only meet like those needs of the business, the ROI, and the shareholders, but are also creating a ton of opportunity for the communities that have not had the access. And so yeah, I would definitely start there by like looking at your the composition of your staff and its makeup. But other things that you can do, if you are, there's so many different businesses in the industry, and over the past year within the pandemic, we have not had the opportunity to meet in person. So we have more instances of what we're doing right now, having like our digital and virtual meetups. So if you produce content, you're trying to do educational sessions, it's important to bring in perspectives like this, because you're elevating the awareness and the experiences of people that can speak with a frame of reference that can not only educate but influence. So if you're not a conference organizer or a content organizer, there's other things that you can do, like look at your marketing, look at your branding, do like a real assessment of that. Does everybody look like the same gender or come from the same like ethnic background? Are you being diverse in the messages that you put out? Whether it's like on a magazine or a newsletter, take a hard look at that, because what you produce and what your customers see is telling a message. So if you don't feel like you can be somebody that can assess that like on your own, then again, seek out folks who can provide that perspective. But Yeah, I guess like, another thing is really just like think about like where you have an opportunity to have influence and bring people in to sort of elevate their experiences and stories like through your platforms. So it's not always marketing, but yeah, programming, education, um, supply chain, who you hire, um, humble yourself and try to, learn and invest in, an education about like the historical context of this industry. If you're in a position where you have the resources and the influence and you can grow quickly, um, I think it's important to understand like that the opportunities that you have not been available to a lot of people. I mean, there's still 40,000 people behind bars in the U.S. for cannabis possession, primarily folks of color. And these people are spending months to years to decades, behind bars for the exact same thing that, a lot of leaders who would be watching this are profiting and making millions off of. So uh, there's reasons for that. So those 40,000 people could be your future business partners, or customers, or people that can, not that can also enhance, this entire industry if they have opportunity.